Alrighty guys, welcome to the video here today for College Football Week 0. My name is Brock Page and I've been doing sports picks for free right here on YouTube since 2016. I also sell my personal sports bets on patreon.com/BrockPage. And I have packages on that website starting at just $1.99. Now I also have a college football tier package on my site as well. And that's going to give you 3 college football personal bets a week in that membership. And the link for those bets is located in the description section below. Now, guys, I did finish last season winning 6 out of my final 9 bets in that college football package. And you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side, and total. And what I do on my website is I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to start off with Nevada taking on New Mexico State. That's going to be on Saturday, August 27, 2022. The Nevada Wolfpacks -9 totals 53. Now, the Wolfpack covered in 5 out of their final 8 contests last season with covers over the likes of San Diego State, UNLV, and Hawaii. They also returned running back Toa Tua, who rushed for over 730 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, they also have defensive back Tyson Williams, who's returning for his senior season. The DB had 47 tackles, 5 PBUs, and 3 interceptions last season. And in addition to those numbers, Tyson also scored twice on a pick 6 and a scoop and score. Now they're taking on an Aggies team who lost 7 out of their final 8 ball games last year. And they allowed 45 points a game on average during that span. And despite losing a bunch of guys to graduation and the league, I think the Wolfpack's going to be a little bit too much for the Aggies. Now, total-wise, Nevada's final 3 games of 2021 all got over the number. As a matter of fact, they went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, New Mexico State, on the other side, they saw 7 out of their last 10 get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward Nevada -9 over 53. Next matchup, Austin Peay taking on Western Kentucky. 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff on August 27th. This game's currently off the board. Now, the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky, they scored 1 million points last season, and they certainly set records in the passing game. And even though quarterback Bailey Zappe's moved on to the NFL, the Hilltoppers do still have some pieces left from that prolific passing attack. Wide receiver Dawood Davis returns for his senior year as he averaged nearly 18 yards of reception last year, along with 8 scores. Meanwhile, sophomore Malachi Corley has a bright future ahead of him as he finished his freshman campaign last year with nearly 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. And even though defense really wasn't part of the strength of this Western Kentucky program, they do have senior linebacker Jaden Hunter, who had 66 tackles last year along with a couple of fumble recoveries. Now, I do think the Hilltoppers should take care of business in this one. Not sure where this line's going to open up at. Maybe throw this game in a parlay. I'm going to lean toward Western Kentucky, winning this one outright for some money line cash. Next ballgame, little Big Ten action. I'm talking about Nebraska squaring off against Northwestern, 12:30 p.m. East. Now, Nebraska's -12.5, totals 50. And even though Northwestern had a down year last season, I do think this number's a little big for Nebraska. They lost their final 6 ball games last year themselves, and they were all against the Big Ten. They also lost starting quarterback Adrian Martinez to the transfer portal. He's actually going to be calling signals at Kansas State. And when it comes to offensive struggles, the Cornhuskers did not have a 1,000-yard receiver last year, and their best returning pass catcher only had 380 total yards. Meanwhile, returning running back Ramir Johnson, he rushed for less than 500 yards last year as well. Now, they're taking on a Northwestern team who struggled last season themselves. We're making no mistake about that. but they did have big covers over the likes of Iowa, Rutgers, and Ohio. It also looks like they're getting back hard-nosed linebacker Bryce Gallagher, who had 90 tackles last season. I do think the Wildcats should keep this one close. May not be a great, exciting game. I'm not expecting a whole lot of offense. The Wildcats did see unders last year against the likes of Purdue, Iowa, and Michigan. Meanwhile, Nebraska saw unders against Purdue, Michigan State, and Oklahoma themselves. I think the Wildcats should be able to keep this one close. Give me Northwestern plus 12.5, under 50. Next ball game, Idaho State versus UNLV. That should be an exciting one. 3:30 p.m. East. Now, this game's currently off the board. Not even sure if we're going to even see a number posted on this game. But the Runnin' Rebels did finish last year covering 3 out of their final 4 ball games. And even though they lost a bunch of games outright, they did go 6-3 against the number in their final 9 contests of last year as well. So it's a team that can certainly cover the number. Wide receiver Kyle Williams, he was second in receiving last year and averaged over 14 yards a catch. Meanwhile, defensively, interception leader Rocky Johnson, he comes back for his junior year, and he certainly provides some solid experience for the secondary. Now, they're taking on an Idaho State team on the other side of things who lost all but 1 game last season, and they averaged just 16 points a game. Now, they suffered bad losses to the likes of Cal Poly, Weber State, Sacramento State, and Northern Arizona, just to name a few. And if you haven't heard of those schools, I really can't fault you, can't blame you there. So I know that the Rebels threw a game a few years back against Howard University. Obviously, that's not confirmed, but they obviously threw the game and lost outright on purpose. I don't think they can pull off that kind of shenanigans against this team. They will certainly be investigated if they do. They're not going to throw this one. I'm going to lean toward the Runnin' Rebels winning that game outright. All right, next matchup, it is going to be UConn versus Utah State, 4 p.m. East. Utah State's minus 27.5, total 60. Now, the Aggies are getting back solid quarterback Logan Bonner. He threw for over 3,600 yards last season and 36 touchdowns. He also gets back wide receiver Justin McGriff, who averaged just about a dozen yards of reception and had 6 touchdowns last year. Now, you may see the Aggies run a little bit more as well. Running backs Calvin Tyler and John Gentry, they combined for over 1,100 yards together, along with 7 scores last year. Now, Utah State did win 8 out of their final 9 games last season, and that includes a bowl win over Oregon State. And in those contests I just mentioned, Utah State was really catapulted by a spirited defensive effort. These guys allowed just 13 points a game in their final 5 victories of 2021. Johnny Carter had 3 interceptions, fumble recovery, and 45 total tackles out of that secondary. Meanwhile, Hunter Reynolds was second on the team in tackles with 84. Now, they're taking on a UConn team who's been an historically bad program over the past handful of seasons. The Huskies won only 1 game last year, and that was a nail-biter against Yale. And even worse, the Huskies suffered a double-digit loss to Holy Cross in 2021. They gave up 38 points in that debacle. And due to their terrible defense, the Huskies did see their final 4 contests of 2021 get over the total. Meanwhile, Utah State saw overs last year against the likes of San Diego State, Wyoming, and San Jose State. Should be an easy one for the Aggies here. I'm going to lean toward Utah State, minus 27.5 in the over 60. Next ball game, Wyoming taking on Illinois, 4 p.m. East. Illinois is the 11-point favorite, totals 44.5. Now, I'm actually not sure there's going to be enough points scored for the Illini to cover, especially double digits. They were held to 24 points or less in 9 out of their final 10 ball games last season. And for the exception of the Northwestern game, they averaged only 15 points per contest during that time frame I just mentioned. Now, the Illini threw for less than 1,900 yards last year for the entire season. Meanwhile, their second leading receiver had 0 scores and didn't even have 300 yards receiving. Now they're taking on a tough Wyoming defense who returns a handful of good players. Sack leader Cole Godbout has had 5 sacks last year along with 70 total tackles. And speaking of tackles, linebacker Easton Gibbs, he was second in that category last year with 89 tackles and a couple of sacks. Now this Wyoming offense really liked to pound the football on the ground. Titus Swen, he averaged just about 6 yards a carry, and he scored 7 times on the ground last year. Meanwhile, as a team, collectively, the Cowboys ran for nearly 3,000 yards as a unit. Now, total-wise, Wyoming saw unders against the likes of Boise State, New Mexico, and Fresno State last year. Meanwhile, Illinois went 8-2 to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Wyoming plus 11, under 44.5. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Duquesne taking on Florida State. That's going to be a 5 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Now that game's currently off the board. Pretty sure we're not going to see a number posted for that one. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on that by kickoff. And I'll tell you this much. If there is a number posted, really doesn't matter what that number opens up at. We're probably going to lay the points. The Noles covered in their final 3 games last year, and they actually went 5-2 against the number in their last 7. And when it comes to running the football, I think we'll see a lot of Trayshawn Ward. He averaged over 6 yards a carry last year and had over 500 yards as a role player. And of course, defensively, these guys have a lot of speed and talent, as they normally do. Interception leader Jamie Robinson, he comes back for his junior season. He had 4 picks, 84 tackles, and a couple of forced fumbles last year. Meanwhile, DJ Lundy had 69 tackles from that linebacker spot. And like I said, guys, even if they put up a number for this game, as large as it may be, it should end up being a massacre. Wouldn't be surprised if you actually didn't know Duquesne had a football team. But anyway, I'm going to lean toward the Seminoles covering the number in this one, whatever that opens up at. I might see a number close to the 50s. Who knows? But anyway, next ball game, it is going to be Charlotte FAU, 7 o'clock East. Florida Atlantic's minus 7.5, totals 58. Now, the Owls whooped up on Charlotte last year, and they held the 49ers to just 9 total points. Interception leader Taja Young is returning to this FAU secondary. He had 58 tackles last year, along with 2 pick sixes. When it comes to offensive production, N'Kosi Perry returns for his senior year at the helm for the Owls. He threw for over 2,700 yards along with 20 touchdowns. Not a lot of mistakes for him either. He only threw 7 picks. Now, you may see Perry handing it off a lot to his running back, Johnny Ford. He rushed for over 800 yards last year and averaged nearly 6.5 yards a carry. Now, they're taking on a Charlotte defense last year who gave up a whole lot of points. These guys allowed 24 points or more in each of their last 9 ball games of 2021. And as a matter of fact, during that span, they gave up 39 points a game on average. And in addition to losing 7 out of their final 10 ball games, the 49ers covered the number only 3 times during that stretch. Now, total-wise, Charlotte went 4-0 to the over in their last 4 straight. Meanwhile, Florida Atlantic saw overs last season against the likes of Western Kentucky, UTEP, and Florida International. I'm going to lean toward FAU minus 7.5, over 58. All right, next ball game, it is going to be Florida A&M taking on North Carolina, 8:15 Eastern start time. Now, this game's currently off the board. Another one of those games may not see a number posted, but out of all the games, I think this one would be most likely to have a number for the game, at least by kickoff. The Tar Heels did lose a handful of games down the home stretch last year, but it certainly was not for a lack of offense. UNC averaged nearly 35 points a game in their final 9 contests. They also get back top receiver Josh Downs, who caught 101 balls for 1,335 yards. Meanwhile, Antoine Green, he was right behind him as the second leading receiver on the team The 6'2 senior averaged just about 20 yards a catch during his junior season. And if the Tar Heels want to get better on defense, it certainly helps getting back their top defensive back in Cameron Kelly. He had 4 interceptions last year, along with 68 tackles. UNC also has leading tackler Cedric Gray back for his junior year. Ced had 99 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and a couple of INTs from that linebacker spot in 2021. Now they're taking on a Florida A&M team who lost to the likes of Southeast Louisiana, South Florida, and Jackson State last season. And in those losses, the Rattlers were held to less than 17 points a game. So I'm going to lean toward the Tar Heels covering the number if that number does close out at a reasonable point spread. All right, next ball game, North Texas, UTEP, 9 o'clock East. North Texas is the 1.5-point favorite. Total's 55 and a hook. Now, the Mean Green ended the season winning 5 straight last year, throwing out the bowl game. They handled the likes of Texas San Antonio, Florida Atlantic, and UTEP during that span. And I'll tell you what, Texas San Antonio, they were absolute covering machines, one of the best covering teams in all of college football. Now, matter of fact, during that 5-game winning streak I just mentioned, the North Texas Mean Green, they averaged over 36 points a game on offense. And when it comes to covering the number, North Texas was equally as good. These guys went 8-2 against the spread in their last 10. Ikaika Ragsdale, Io Adeyi, and Isaiah Johnson, they all combined for over 1,300 yards in the backfield on the ground, along with 16 scores. And when it comes to defensive play, it was K.D. Davis who was the clear-cut leader on that side of the ball. The linebacker had 120 tackles and 4.5 sacks. Now they're taking on a UTEP squad on the other side of things who really fizzled out in the second half of the season last year. The Miners lost 5 out of their final 6 ball games, and they allowed over 32 points a game in those contests. Now when it comes to the total, UTEP did see their last 3 ball games get over the number, 5-1 to the over in their final 6. Meanwhile, North Texas saw overs against the likes of Texas San Antonio, Southern Miss, and Liberty University. I'm going to lean toward North Texas minus 1.5, and the over 55 and a hook. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for Week 0. It is going to be Vanderbilt taking on Hawaii, 10:30 p.m. East. Now, Vandy's minus 7 on the road, totals 55. Now, I realize Vandy's in the SEC and everything, but as I indicated last year in a lot of videos, Hawaii is a very tough place to play. Very tough to focus, for the opponents when there's palm trees and sand. A lot of stuff to do that can keep you distracted. And I'll tell you this much, probably 90% of the coaching staff and just the staff members for the program probably have never been there. So it's an experience for them. Everybody's equally as distracted. Now, Vandy also had one of the worst offensive units in college football last year. Not only did they lose 9 out of their last 10, they averaged only 16 points a game during that span. Now, leading rusher Rocco Griffin, he averaged only 3.6 yards a carry last year. As a matter of fact, the Commodores as a team rushed for less than 1,500 yards for the entire season. Now, they're taking on a scrappy Hawaii team who won their final 2 conference games last season. As a matter of fact, the Rainbow Warriors averaged 41 points a game in their last 5 victories. Calvin Turner had over 1,100 yards combined out of the backfield and a dozen touchdowns. That's receiving and rushing. And when it comes to the total, I'm really not sure if either defense is stout enough to keep this one under. Hawaii saw 4 out of their last 6 ball games get over the total. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt saw overs against Tennessee, Missouri, and Georgia. I'm going to lean toward Hawaii plus 7 and the over 55. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap for Week 0 in this 2022 season. And as always, guys, our quick pick recaps powered to you by my website at patreon.com/BrockPage, where we finished last year 6-3 in our final 9 college football tier package bets on my website. I like Nevada minus 9 over 53. Give me Western Kentucky winning their game outright for some money line cash. Give me Northwestern plus 12.5 under 50. I like UNLV winning their game outright for some money line cash. I like Utah State minus 27.5 over 60. Wyoming plus 11 under 44 and a hook. Give me Florida State covering the number in that ball game. I like Florida Atlantic minus 7.5 over 58. Give me the UNC Tar Heels covering the number in their ball game as well. I like North Texas minus 1.5 over 55 and a hook. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that if you want to see which one of these free picks on this video that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for my college football tier membership bets on patreon.com/BrockPage. I'm going to lean toward Hawaii plus 7 and the over 55. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my website. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And guys, if you want to get access to every single bet, every single package, every single day, you're going to want to sign up for my board member package. It's an all-inclusive membership. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it is you're watching this. Best of luck with your bets. Have a good day. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.